Go all the way back. We'll run through quick. You want to turn it off and start it again?
Yeah, sure.
6 hours. What would we do theoretically, like on a Shabbos after Eish Hashis, then they have to have Melav Malka?
Yeah.
You're supposed to. Would they eat cheese during Melav Malka if it's under 6 hours?
Well, you don't have to eat cheese during Melav Malka, right?
But could they theoretically?
So, if they didn't wait 6 hours, yeah, then right. If you are Yekis, right? The Yekis wait 3 hours now, right? That's the German Jews, so they wait 3 hours because they're relying on the Rishonim. So you don't really have to wait anywhere. It's just we're just waiting extra as a chumrah anyway. We're just going strict. All right, we'll go through it fast. I'm not going to go into all the details of all the. Okay, ready, Yehuda? Are we on?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you start us? All right, we are reviewing now. If you were not here at the time, you missed a great beginning shiur in which we discussed in detail some of the laws, which I'm going to only briefly touch on now because we have to, we'll do chazara now because we didn't have the microphone plugged in. So we're going to start from Gufa, 10 lines down from the top of Kuf Hamad Av. Gufa. Amar Rabbi Zir saying, Ella bepas, the only way to wash out your mouth is with bread. The honey mili b'dechiti has to be wheat bread of al b'desari, but barley bread no low. Udechiti nami, and even when it comes to wheat bread, lo amran ella b'karira, it has to be cold aval b'chamima, but not hot. Why? Because mishter stari, because it's gonna get gloopy in your mouth and it's not gonna clean it out well, right? And same barley bread is too crummy. And honey mili b'rakicha, it has to be soft aval b'akusha. If it's already dried out, lo, it's not gonna work either. The hilchas and the halacha is though that b'chol mili habi kinuach, you can clean your mouth out with any food lebar mikimcha tamri v'yarka, except if it's going to be just flour itself, dates, and vegetables. Those are not things that are going to be good for cleansing your mouth out. Boy mini Rav Asi Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Asi asked Rabbi Yochanan the question: Kama yishha bein basar ligvina? How long do you have to wait between meat and cheese? Amar Lev Lo Klum. He says nothing. Ini, is that true? How can you say nothing? Vaha Amar Rav Chisda. And Rav Chisda say achol basar also lechol gvina. If you've eaten meat, you can't eat cheese right afterwards. But gvina, if you've eaten cheese, mutter lechol basar, you can eat meat after cheese. So Ella. So he says, Kama yisha ben gevina lebasar. What he meant to ask is, how long do you have to wait between cheese and meat? So Amar Le v'lo klum. He said, you don't have to wait any at all between meat and cheese. Okay, Gufa. Amar Rav Chisda says, Achol basar asur echol gevina. If you've eaten meat, you can't eat cheese afterwards. Gevina mutter lechol basar. If you eat cheese, you can eat meat afterwards. Amar Le Rav Acha bar Yosef Rav Chisda. To Rav Acha bar Yosef asked Rav Chisda, basar shebein shinayim. If you've got meat between your teeth, mahu, what is the halacha there? Is that going to be considered meat still, and you have to wait? You can't eat the cheese until you clean it out? Or do you not have to worry about it? Kari alei. So he told him, there's a pasuk says a basar dena b'shneihem, because by the quail, the meat was still in their teeth, and therefore it was called meat, even while it was in their teeth. So you do have to worry, and therefore there's a waiting period between meat and milk. Amar Mar Ukva. So Mar says, Ana laha milsa chala bar chamra legabayaba. I am vinegar to wine compared to my father. I am the vinegar. My father is wine. In this issue, my father, when he ate meat, so lo hava achel gvina alamachar, he didn't eat any cheese until tomorrow, ad hasha this time. So we wait 24 hours. But me, lo achilna, I won't eat it during the same meal. Achilna, but the next meal I will. And that's where we said there's a discussion in the Rishonim what the definition of the next meal is. Does it mean like right away afterwards, and there's the requirement to wait is only a stringency, or is it the amount of time between the two meals, which is 6 hours or thereabouts, and therefore we had just had some conversation, about 5 minutes conversation as to the various opinions on how long to wait. Okay, well, that's where we're up to. Amar Shmuel. That's the 2-minute version of the 15-minute shiur that we had done. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Ana leha milsa chala bar chamra legabayaba. I'll tell you something else, that I am like vinegar compared to my father being wine. Dilu abba hava sayer nachse tre zimni biyoma. My father, he used to check his business twice a day. He used to go around the fields and check everything twice a day. Vana lo siyarna lechad zimna. I only get around everything once a day, right? I'm not as diligent in checking over everything.
Get security cameras.
That's what you can do. That's good. Shmuel l'tamein. Shmuel is telling us according to his reasoning. Shmuel says, "Man desire nichsei kol yoma." If somebody checks all of his deals every day, mishkach astira, he's going to find a coin every day, right? In other words, check your investments, check your bank accounts, make sure nobody took anything out, make sure there's no unauthorized things, right? Go around, check your business stuff, right? Because if you do, you're going to find a mistake every once in a while. It's going to save you some money. Abaye have a sire nichse kol yom v'yom. Abaye, that was his custom. He would check on everything every day. Yom Echad, one day, Paga ba'arise dedori piska de'ufe. He saw that the guy who was the sharecropper, the guy who was his tenant on his land, was walking off with a whole bunch of firewood. That wasn't his, right? It should have been Abaye's. So Amar Le, so Abaye says to him, Hani lehecha, where are you going with that? So Amar Le, Lebeimar, I'm headed to your house, right? I was just going to bring it to you, right? Doing you a favor, right? Amar Le, Kvar Kedamuch Rabbani, he says, the rabbis already figured your trick out. In other words, they already told us, I got to check every day because I know what you're trying to do, right? Don't do it, because I'm on to you. Ravasi hava sayer nichse kol yom. Ravasi was checking on his stuff every day. Amar, and he said, "Hey, chaninu kohani istri demar Shmuel." He said, "I never found any problems with my businesses. Everything's going nicely. So I don't understand. Shmuel promised that I'm going to get one coin every day if I check, and I haven't found any problems. So where's all the savings I'm supposed to be getting?" Yom Echad, so one day, chazat sinora de bidka ba'ar'e. He saw that there was a little crack in the irrigation trench that was watering his field, and the water was getting out of the sides, and it could flood all of his crops. So shakle liglime, he quickly took off his cloak. Karche, he wrapped it up. Osve begava, and stuck it into the leak in order to prevent it. Rama kavli, he screamed. Also inchi sicharuha. His people, the people came and they sealed it up. They fixed it immediately, right? He saw the problem immediately and he took action. They fixed it immediately. Amar, he said, Ashkechinlu lekulu istri demar Shmuel. I found all the coins that Shmuel promised, right? Sometimes, in other words, the point is that sometimes you'll find a mistake every day a little bit. Sometimes you'll find, right, if you check your bank accounts every day, nothing happens. One time you find somebody with some unauthorized charge on your credit card, it was worth it to check, right? Find out time. Amar Ravidi Barab, and Ravidi Barab says, Amar Yitzchak bar Ashian, in the name of Yitzchak bar Ashian, Mayim Rishonim. Now, this is the new topic we discussed today, right? Washing. You wash your hands for eating bread. The Mayim Rishonim, washing hands for bread, is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to wash your hands when you are going to eat bread. Achronim, Mayim Achronim, washing your hands at the end of the meal, is a chova. It's obligatory. It's obligatory, stronger than a mitzvah. So Meisvei, so he asked the following question. Mayim Achronim chova. We say Mayim Rishonim ve'achronim chova. Both the washing your hands beforehand and afterwards are obligatory. So emtsayim, the one in the middle of the course, they would bring a little bit of water to wash your hands between the two courses. That's rishus. That you don't have to. That's if you want to. Mitzvah lagabe rishus chova karile. So therefore he said, well, wait a second. Does that mean that we said the first one was a mitzvah, the last one was a chova. Now we're saying they're both a chova. What's the difference? So he said, there's different levels. Chova means you have to, right? Mitzvah means you get a positive mitzvah if you do it, right? There's a difference between I say, I have to. What's I have to? I have to make kiddush on Shabbos, right? I have to. I got to find some wine. I got to do it, right? I should mitzvah to give tzedakah every day. I should. I didn't do it today. Could give some more tomorrow. It's a mitzvah. I should, right? Then mitzvah versus chova, and then there's rishus. I'd like some chocolate cake. If you want to have chocolate cake, have chocolate cake. If you don't want to have chocolate cake, don't have chocolate cake. It doesn't matter, right? Those are three different levels of things: mitzvah, chova, and rishus. Therefore, compared to a rishus, a mitzvah is a chova, right? That's what we're saying. Okay, gufa. Back on what we just said. Mayim rishonim ve'achronim chova. Washing your hands before the meal and washing your hands after the meal are obligatory. Emtsaim rishos, the ones in the middle, is a nice thing to do if you want to do it. Rishonim, the first washing, so notlin bein bekli bein al gabe karka. You can wash your hands into a utensil, into a basin, or you can wash your hands outside and spill the water on the ground. It doesn't matter, right? That's as we'll see, it's because it's a ritual washing. Right? So you're removing ritual impurities. Therefore, the water has nothing, there's nothing bad about the water. So you spill it on the ground, it's not a big deal. Achronim, but Mayim Achronim, we're going to see it's because they had a dangerous salt that they were using. And if you rub it on your eyes, you could go blind. We'll see that in a moment. Mayim Achronim, ain't notlin elo bekli. You got to pour it into a utensil. Got to keep track of that water. You don't want to spill that water onto the ground, right? Baby will go crawling and play in it and then get hurt, right? So you got to make sure to keep track of that. The Omri law, and some say, ein notlin al gabe karka, you're not allowed to spill it on the ground, right? Doesn't say that you have to spill it onto a utensil, but just don't spill on the ground. My beinayu, what's the difference between them? Make a beinayu kinsa. If you've got some wood chips on the ground, which is a place that like you can know that the water will just dissolve into, right? Then one opinion says that's fine. The other one says, no, that's not good enough. And that's why you get the little mayim achronim containers that we pour out. People don't get up, right, and go wash outside. Even if you're at your sukkah, you can wash outside, spill it on the ground, right? But as long as you
water the plants,
except you have to be careful not to water your plants, right, on your concrete or on your deck or something. But if you have mayim achronim, they always pour into another utensil. Mayim rishonim, the washing your hands before the meal. Notlin bein bechamin bein betzonin. You can use hot water, you can use cold water, whatever you want. Achronim, but washing afterwards, ein notlin betzonin. You have to use cold water. Mipnei shechamin mifafin asiyadayim. Because the whole problem is that you've got this food on your hands, and if you use warm water, open the pores in your hands, and it'll help absorb what you're trying to wash off. So don't go with hot water for mayim achronim. Ma'avirin esazuhama, ein ma'avirin esazuhama. The hot water is not going to get rid of wash it off of your hands, which is the whole idea. So cold is better for mayim achronim. Mayim rishonim notlin bein bechamim mitzonim. Now the Brisa said, washing your hands at the beginning of the meal, hot water or cold water. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef. Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef says, Amar Rav Yanai, and then Rav Yanai, lo shanu ella she'ein hayad soledes bahen. The only thing is, you can't use water that is so hot that it's literally the yad soledes in some places. Rashi says in other places that it is hot enough that your hand will pull back, right? Yad soledes. It will scorch your hand a little bit. It'll hurt your hand a little bit. Aval, but it can't mean that it's really burning. We're not talking about boiling water because people wouldn't wash their hands with burning water, right? It's a little hot. The temperature usually was 140 degrees Fahrenheit, 145 degrees Fahrenheit. In Celsius, that's like 50, right? Something around there, right? 50, 55, 60, something like that, right?
Yeah, about there.
Yeah. Aval, hayad soledes bahan, ein noten ben. Don't use the yad soledes water. That's not good either. Veka demasni la aseifa. And some learned this statement on the end, which is achronim ein notlin el betzonim. Mayim achronim, you need to have cold water. Aval bechamin lo, not hot water. Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef. That's where Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef says, Amar Rav Yanai lo shanu ella shayad soledes bahan. When we say you can't use hot water for mayim achronim, we mean hot enough that it's yad soledes, a little bit sweat, right? Aval, any yad soledes bahen notlin. But if it's lukewarm water, right, tap water or whatever, you don't have to put an ice cube in it, right? Just warm water is fine. Miklal de rishonim afal bisha yad soledes bahen. Now, according to that second version, that means that mayim rishonim, you can use hot water, right? If you like that, right? So that would be mutter, then it would be permitted. Okay, good. Next, emtzaim. Let's talk about the water that's in the middle of the meal, right? We don't usually see that nowadays. We see washing at the beginning. Mayim achronim, people are a little bit less, right? I was at a Sephardi home. They would say, let's do mayim achronim chova. They actually call it mayim achronim chova because it is because that's what the Gemara calls it, mayim achronim chova, right? It's the obligatory mayim achronim. So should not be lenient on it. People are, but they shouldn't be. Okay. The water in the middle of the meal. So that's a rishus. Amar Rav Nachman says, Lo shanu ella bein tavshil letavshil. That's only if you're going from one course to the next, one cooked item to the next cooked item. Aval bein tavshil legvina, but if you're going from meat to cheese, then chova, then you've got to wash your hands in between. Then you've got to. Now, this is where people say, well, 1 second. You're eating meat from cheese, then you got a long wait, right? So they first of all flip it and say it's got to be cheese to meat. So if going from cheese to meat, then you don't have to. And then others say, no, it could be from meat to cheese. But we're not literally talking about you're not talking about eating a steak and then going to eat a piece of cheese. We're talking about eating a fleishik dish. I make pea soup in a pot that's fleishik. Now that is fleishik, right? French fries from a fleishik, and I go to eat a French fries from a pizza store. So I'm eating a cooked food that's meat from meat utensil.
But really, it's not really meat. You just wash your mouth.
That's correct. And that's what their point is, right? So I don't really have to wait in between because I'm not going from meat to milk. I'm going from a parve dish that was cooked in a meat with meat, and to or in a meat oven or something like that to the French fries that was cooked in the pizza shop. So in between, wash your hands.
Or drink something.
Right. Well, here it says we're talking about our hands specifically, right? Wash your hands. I'm going to read you to braid the Reb Chia. Rav Yehuda and Rav Chia says, why did they say mayim achronim isn't obligatory? So we already give this way. Why? Because the Sodomi salt, it calls very strong salt that they had from Sodom. So that was so strong that if you got it in your eye, it could blind you. So therefore, it was dangerous. We want to make sure that it's off your hands at the end of the meal. Amar Rabbi says, umish tekach ki kurta bekura. He says, this salt was so powerful, right? It is like a 1 to 30 sa'ab ratio. One grain is like worth a way more significant volume of regular salt. It's like way powerful, concentrated. Amar le Rav Acha Breid Rav Ravashi. So Rav Acha, the son of Rav, says to Ravashi, Kol milcha mai. So he says, what about What about these other types of salts, right? When you are measuring, right, in order to sell it. So what is the halacha, right? Do you have to wash your hands after every time you touch the salt or any of these other kinds of things? So Amar le lomi boy. He says that you don't really have to worry about it, or you don't have to wash your hands in between. Which is probably why we're more lenient about mayim achronim nowadays, is because we don't use that salt, and therefore you don't have to worry about it so much, right? But we have a rule that when the chacham make a takana to do something, right, we keep it. So therefore there are those who are lenient, but there are those who are make extra effort to do mayim achronim. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Meireish havamina haidelu mashu maya basroi al ara mishum zuhama. First, I had the assumption. You know why it is that right? We don't wash our hands. We don't spill the mayim achronim onto the ground because we don't want to make a mess. But that's just not polite. Amar limar. But then my Rabbi Rabba said, mishum deshaya ruach ra'a alayhu, because there are literally evil spirits, right? Basically, it was dangerous, right? So therefore, on that water, we just need to stay away from that water. It's dangerous. So therefore, that's why. Amar Abaye says, Miresh Havamin. At first, I had thought, Haidelo shakel midi mi patura kinoket inish kasa lemishti. That which people have the custom. Why a person doesn't take something from the table while somebody is still drinking from his cup. Right? You're not supposed to take things off the table while he's drinking from his cup. Maybe why is that? Because Shema Yera Davar Kakala Bisuda, because maybe he'll be upset. The guy who's drinking will see, oh, you're taking, I wasn't finished with that. Right? And he'll be in the middle of drinking, and therefore he'll choke. Right? He'll just start to see, oh, you're taking the potatoes off, and start choking. That's why I thought you don't do that. Wait, don't do anything while the guy's in the middle of drinking. Amar limar, but then my Rebbe said, mishum dekashi l'ruach tzarda, that this is it winds up causing it causes the person to get lightheaded and to lose his mind, right? Dizzy and lose his mind, right? In other words, it's some kind of mystical, some problem that's bad for the person who's drinking if somebody takes things off the table. So it's some spiritual challenge that he needs to know about. V'lo amran ela deshakil v'lo mahadar. Now that's only if you're taking something off the table and you're not putting it back.
And Dr. it's because it is loathsome.
It is loathsome. Yeah, but that's not that part, right? That's the loathsome, that's the mios, right? Now, that's only if you're going to take it off and you're not putting it back. So then, aval mishkal vadur, if you're taking it off and you're going to put it back, right? You're just picking it up off the table and you're going to pass it to somebody else, right? Then leis lamba, you don't have to worry about that. Lo amran ella chutz l'arba amos. And that's also if you're only taking in more than 4 amos off the table. Aval tochar ba'amos leis lamba. If you're just putting it onto the side, right? But it's within 4 amos of the area, that's also not a problem. Yeah, that's also wouldn't say. Yeah, raise it. I guess it's anytime 4 amos is within shot. Just don't take it into the kitchen while somebody's drinking. I guess lo amran, and that's what we say. Elamidi ditzarich l'suudasa. That this is also something that you need for the meal, right? Some food that's on there. Aval midi l'tzarich l'suudasa leis lanba. But if it's something you don't need for the meal anymore, right? Let's say you're taking off a dirty plate, right? Taking off something that's empty, right? That's not a problem. Mar baravashi kopid afilu asisa ubuchna detavli. Mar baravashi was even careful on the, I guess, the spice shakers, right? Is that what that is?
Which one?
Yeah, like the spice shakers, right? We're not gonna take those off the tables. So to make sure, midi detzricha l'seudasa, because there's things that you'll need for the meal, right? So you don't even take spices off the table, right?
Salad, whatever it is.
Yeah, don't take those off the salad dressing. Don't take it off the table. People may use them. Farama Abai, unless you take a look everybody. I've never seen anybody. Maybe I've just not noticed, right? I've never seen anybody like look around the room and like decide not to take something off the table because somebody's in the middle of drinking. But Abai says, Miresh Havamina. At first I thought, Hai dekanche nashvara, that which we are careful to gather up all the breadcrumbs that fall on the ground, right? Mishum minaki rusas, because we're just trying to be clean, right? People have breadcrumbs under the table, you sweep them up, trying to be clean. Amar limar, but my Rebbe told me, Mishum de kashila niyusa, that if you're not careful with the breadcrumbs, you'll get poor, right? So it's bad for you. So therefore, make sure to clean up anything that drops on the ground. So you should tell all the kids at school, make everybody pick up after themselves at lunchtime, right? If you leave the crumbs all over the place, it's not good for you. You'll wind up not being rich. Hahu Gavra, there was once a guy, the malach that is in charge, the angel that is in charge of making people poor, yes, there is one, right? He was trying to get some guy and make him poor, but he couldn't get him to, he was very careful about the crumbs, so they never could get him. So, because Zahir an Shavrad Tuva, he was very careful about the crumbs, so this angel could never make him poor. Yom Achad, so one day, Karach Rifta Ayable, he was eating bread, which was in the field on grass, and he goes, "Oh, this time I got him." There's no way he's going to sweep up grass. Like, could you imagine getting some crumbs from your barbecue into the ground? You don't care. So Amar Hashtavadei Nafal Bidai. For sure, he's fallen into my hands this time. I got him now. Basar de'achal. After he finished eating, Aiti Mara, he brought a shovel, and Akrinhu liyable, he scooped up the whole thing and dumped it into the lake. Dumped it in the water, right? Sham'ei deka'amar, then he heard, the person heard the angel who was in charge of making people poor say, Vaid afkeahu gavra mi beisei. Oh, why we took this person this person has left my house, meaning I couldn't get him. Right? So this guy literally heard the angel say it, right? That's because he was so, I guess, holy and taking care of this. So this is a good thing. You want to keep your money, take care of, sweep up afterwards, and your wife won't mind either.
She'll love you even better. She'll love you even more if you do it.
Yes, moms also. Abai says, Meresh Havamin. At first I had thought, Hai delo shasi ufia, that which we are careful not to drink the foam which is on top of the wine, right? The foam parts of the wine is mishum de miusasa, because it's gross, right? Then you only gross the foam that's on top of the wine. Okay. Usually we don't have that. The beer is, I think people drink that foam. Amar Limar, he said, but my Rebbe said, mishum de koshi lekarsom. He says that it really is because it causes some kind of a stomach problem. I think it's rerim. Nose, right? From its nose, right? What was it called? It's the Ririm Habayim Menachotim. I guess some kind of disease that's in the nostrils. Okay, so therefore that's why. Mishtei kasha lekarsam. Right? If you do in fact drink it, it's bad for you. It's bad. It's going to wind up getting you. What do they call it? What's the disease called? They translate it there. This karsam. I think I looked it up in art school. It was some word, kartar or something like that. I couldn't remember. Right? That's what they called it. So it's like some weird word. I didn't know what it was, but some illness. So what do? Minpach bay, right? So what you got to do is you got to blow the foam off, right? Stay away from that foam. Kashilaresha, it's very, but then if you blow it off, right, then it's good. That's bad for your head. Midyachei, so what are you going to do? You're going to push off, yeah?
Okay. Karta means a buildup of excess mucus or foam in the nose, throat, sinus, or airway.
So there you go. It is a nose condition, right? Okay, so that's what that is. So if you blow the foam off, that's bad for your head, right? It's gonna make you dizzy. If you knock it off, so then kashilan yuso, that's bad for being poor. So we don't want to do any of those things. So what do? So maita kante. So what are you supposed to do? So lishak shiku. So what you do is, you pour it off, I guess, until it winds up falling off by itself. You pour it off into another container, and that way you pour it off that way. Lekarsum de chamra, when you've got the foam that's on wine, so if you've drank that, now you got to solve the problem. So what do? Shichra, so you wind up you drink beer for that. Right? De shichra, if you've got foam from beer, so there you are correct, right? Avoid the foam of beer. If you drink the foam of beer, maya, you should drink some water with that. De maya, if you've got foam from the water, leis leitakonta, you can't fix that. There's nothing you can do about that.
Like carbonated water.
Yeah, maybe, right? V'hainu damriinchi, it's what people say, basar anya azla an yusa, that poor people get more poor, right? Basic bottom line. If you were drinking wine, we could have fixed you, but now that you're drinking water, now we can't fix you. It's your loss. V'amar Rabbi says, Mirei Shav, at first I had thought, Hai de lo achli yarka mikisha de aser gina, that which we don't eat vegetables directly from the bundle, right? You come from the store, and if I get like my whole, you come home and you've got like the big, all the celery is all in the big pack. Just take a big bite out of the whole thing. We don't do that. I thought maybe the reason we don't do that is mishum demichse kiravnusa, because that just looks rude. Right, you look like you're a ravenous person. That looks bad, right? Amar limar, but my Rebbe told me mishum dekashi likshafim. It's actually bad for witchcraft, right? They want to be able to make sure that people don't cast spells on the bunches. So if we separate it all out, that's the best thing to do. Rav Chisda v'Rabbi bar Rav Huna havu ka'azli be'arba. So Rav Chisda and Rabbi bar Rav Huna were going on a ship, on a boat. Amr lulahi matronisa, a certain matron, a certain noblewoman, said to them, Osvan bahadaichu. So I would like to sit with you guys with the boat. Velo osve. But they didn't put her with them. Right? They didn't Amra Milsa, so she was mad about that she didn't get to sit with them. So she muttered some kind of witchcraft at them. And asarta la'aba. So it caused the ship to stop moving. Right? It got stuck. Aru inhu milsa. So they said, right, that another type of witchcraft, they knew what the counter spell was, and they used it, and sharyuha, and they freed it. So amra lahu. So she said to them, Ma'i avilahu. What can I do to you? Right? How am I supposed to? Right? I'm upset at you, and I'd like to cause you some harm, but you seem to know how to counter the spells. Right? Because you are not vulnerable. I would love to afflict you guys directly, but we have learned, right? The way to get afflicted is if you clean yourself from after the bathroom, they would use pottery shards. We say don't do that because that's bad for
painful as well.
Yeah. But nowadays it's because it's dangerous for witchcraft, and so you don't do that because you know the witchcraft rules, and so you don't do that. And also, we also learned that you don't crush lice with your hands. And they would take the bugs and crush them with their hands. That's bad for witchcraft also. You don't do that. And you also don't eat the vegetables directly from the bundle. So therefore, since you're not really susceptible, so I can't do much to you. Rabbi says, at first I had thought, that which we don't eat vegetables that fall off the table is because mishum misusa, because it fell on the floor, you don't eat it, right? But Amar Limar, my Rabbi told me mishum de kashul l'reach hapeh, it's bad for bad breath, right? Eat vegetables that fall on the ground and get bad breath. Amar Abaye says, Miresh Havamina, first we tusei marzeva, that which we don't sit under a gutter. Right, they would have these water spouts. Right, we don't sit under those. Is mishum shofchim, because the dirty water will fall on you. So that's why, right? But I was told no, mishum deshchichi mazikin, because where that water falls, that is where demons reside, and we always love demon gemaras. Right? Demon gemaras. And whenever I go to teach at camp, every camper say,
"Those should be written in Latin."
Right, teach us about demons. So here we go, demons.
Those should be written in Latin.
All right, so here we go. Here's demons. Hanu shakoloi. There were these day workers, right? These people were like working and carrying things. Dahavu daru chavita dechamra. They're carrying barrels of wine. Ba'u litfuche. They needed to take a break. They needed to put the wine barrel down until it rest. Asvua tuse marzeva. They found a place under a gutter, and they put it there. Okay, they put the wine barrel down. Paka, and the barrel blew up. exploded, it broke. So they were upset because clearly what happened was a demon was there that they didn't notice, and it broke the barrel. So what do you do when a demon breaks your barrel? So also Lakami de Mar Bar Ravashi, they went to Beis Din. They went to Mar Bar Ravashi's Beis Din, and they said, we're going to bring this demon to Beis Din. He owes us money, right? Obviously.
Good luck.
Told you, it's good. So Apik Shipure. So the guy, obviously, demon doesn't want to show up to court.
You see objects flying.
So he doesn't come to court. So he took out a chauffeur, Vishamte, and he excommunicated him or pushed him, ordered him. Right? I guess the order, that's why we use a chauffeur, right? Because chauffeur chases away all the bad things and things. So that's how he took out a chauffeur and he ordered him around. Also the kame, fine. So after that, the demon comes to Beis Din, Amar Le. So Ravashi says to the demon, Amai Tavid Hachi, why did you break the barrel? So Amar Le, so the demon says, Hechi Yavid Kios Ve'ba'onoi. He says, what am I supposed to do? They put the barrel in my ear. I'm lying there, minding my own business. They put a barrel on me. So what am I supposed to do? So Amar Le, so he said to him, At beduchta d'shchichi rabim, my boys. What are they supposed to do? You're in the middle of the public area, right? You lie down in the middle of the public area. Of course it's going to happen. It's your fault. Atu d'shanes, you're the one who was doing the wrong thing. Zil shalim, so therefore you have to pay. So Amar Le, so the demon says to Mar Bar Ravashi, Hashtanami, likbali mar zimna. He says, okay, you got to give me some time to get some money, right? Demons don't walk around with money in their pockets because I gotta find some money.
Unless they're undercover.
Ve'efra, and then I'll pay. So kavale zimna. So they set him some time, right? Kimat the zimna when the time was up. Iyakev, he wasn't paying, right? Demon wasn't paying. So ki also, when he comes to pay, when they brought him back to court, so you got to pay. Amar Le, he told. So Mar Rashi says, "Bezimnach, why didn't you come on time to pay?" So Amar Le, so the Mazik says, "Kol mili tzayir v'chosim v'chayil money." He says anything which is bundled up or counted or sealed, right? Leis lon reshusa lemishkel min. I can't take it, right? That's why we say, okay, let's say ad mishkachinon midi dehevkera. He says I got to go look around and find scattered things. That's the only way I can get money. That's why we say that things that are watched or counted, right? If somebody wants a bracha, right, then things can be watched or counted. Basically, things can be added or subtracted to if you don't have a precise number on them. Once something is counted and it's precise, so then it gets stuck in its status the way that it is. Demons can't take it away, right? This is ironic because we always say that we don't want to count something because if we count it, then it gets an ayin hara. Right? It sounds like in this Gemara, right, the fact that it would be counted or bundled would have prevented the demon from taking it. Right? So it depends on things that are bundled up. But in any event, that's the rules of demons. So just so that you should know next time you have a court case. So V'amar Abaye further says, Mireish Havamina. First I thought, Hai deshadi maya mipuma dechatzba. The reason why when we're going to take some water, we pour a little bit off of the pitcher. We pour a little bit drop on the ground first. Is mishum tzivsa, is because you've got some like floating particles in the top of the water, so you just pour it out and get rid of whatever pieces might have fallen in. But Amar Limar, but my Rabbi told me mishum deikamayim haroyim is because you could actually have some bad water in there, right? Some shadim could come and get involved in that water, so you want to be able to get the shadim out of it, so you pour it off. So, since we're dealing in demons, here we go. Ahu bar Sheda, there was a son of a demon. I don't know if that makes him a demon. I presume sons of demons are demons, right? But he's a son of a demon, Dahava Beirav Papa. He was on Rav Papa's kitchen staff, right? Interesting enough, right? Right? He got hired. The demon got hired. Azul la'atuye maya minara. So he got sent on a task. His job was go get some water from the river, right? Send the demon to do it. Well, you don't want demonized water. That's the key. So Iyakiv, he took a long time. He didn't get it right away. Kiels, when he finally came back with the water, Amrule, so the people in the house said to him, Amay Ikavt, why did you take so long? It's not a chutzpah to ask a demon, right? The demon asks a demon, right? Why did you take so long? So Amar Lahu, so he said to them, Ad dechalfi mayim haroyim. I said, because he's a demon, he saw, right? They had the water that was there was bad. So I had to wait until it flowed downstream so I can get the good water, right? Get the fresh water. Ad dehachi, in the meantime, chazanhu, dekashadu mayu mipuma, Dechatzba, he saw that the custom in the house is everybody was pouring a little bit of the water off of the pitcher. And he said, Amari hava yadana deraglisu b'limavid hachi. If I knew that that's what you were going to do anyway, loli yakvi, I wouldn't have waited because it wouldn't have been a problem. I would have scooped up, would have been the bad water. You would have poured a little bit off the top and that would have been fine. I was worried that you wouldn't do that, so therefore I was waiting for the good water. Kielsa Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael. He said, Amar mayim harishonim hechilu basar chazir. Hechilu bisar chazir. Right, the mayim the water that you use to wash before you eat bread is, if you don't, right, there was a story that somebody didn't wash, and the result of not washing before bread, he wound up eating non-kosher pig.
Is it like you're washing because you stick your hands in your tummy before you eat bread?
We will discuss that in a moment, right? But the idea, what happened is that he went to an inn, and where they serve kosher food, and he asked for a meal, and the guy served him bread, and he didn't wash. So the guy said he's probably not Jewish, so he gave him the pig, gave him the non-kosher meal. If he had washed, he would have realized he's Jewish, and he wouldn't have eaten the non-kosher. So therefore, yes. So therefore, that's where he's safe. By washing, he could have been prevented from that. And achronim, somebody, because they didn't do mayim achronim, hotziu es ha'isha mi ba'ala, caused a husband and wife to get separated.
Get divorced,
right? They'd get divorced, right? Because what happened is, there was a person whose name was Kidur, and the person left money with this guy, and what happened was a thief came along, right? A thief had come along and I guess Kidur kept the money. Right? Somebody had left his money with this guy Kidur. Kidur gave it to his wife for safekeeping. Said, put this in the safe, right? So a thief comes along and he notices that Kidur's got his hands dirty, right? He's got all kinds of beans or whatever on his hands. So he goes over to the guy's wife, to Kidur's wife, and he says to Kidur's wife, your husband Kidur told me to collect the money that you're holding on to. And he knew that you would. She says, yeah, but I don't trust you. He goes, well, he knew that you'd say that, so he told me to tell you something only you and he would know, and that is that he had beans for lunch. And so she said, oh, that's right. So she gave him the money, but not realizing that because Kidur didn't wash his hands after he finished eating, right? So if he had washed his hands, and then Kidur got mad at his wife, and so therefore they got divorced, and he went that wine. That all happened because he didn't do mayim achronim. Okay? Kielsa Rabin, when Rabin came from Omar, he said, Rishonim hechilu basar nevela. There was a story. The story was, it wasn't a pig, but he ate non-kosher, cow meat, right? That it was not shechted properly.
Did he know?
And sorry?
Did he know?
Did he know? No, he didn't know. He didn't realize. He found it afterwards. And achronim, the mayim achronim is harguas nefesh. Somebody got killed, right? That he didn't divorce his wife, but he killed her. Right, it was actually, the story was the end of the story, he got so mad at his wife he killed her. The way that you can remember the difference in the story is also Rav Dimi apka. When Rav Dimi came, she left, and also Rabin katla. And then when Rabin came, she got killed. Right, that's the difference in the story. Rabbi Abba masni chada mehani v'chada mehani lechumra. So Rabbi Abba taught one of the stories one way, and he taught the other story the other way. And the way to remember which one is, he took the stringent story between the two. Meaning when it came to Mayim Rishonim, to the washing, he made it pig meat. And when it came to the story of the Mayim Achronim, he killed the wife. That's how he told the story. Itmar. So it has been said. Chame ha'ur, right, the water that has been heated up. Chizkiah Amar, Chizkiah says, "Inot lehem liyadayim." You can't wash your hands with it. And Rabbi Yochanan Amar not lehem liyadayim. Rabbi Yochanan says you can. Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, "Sha'alti es Rabbi Gamliel beno shel Rabbi ochel taharos." So I asked Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rabbi, he was somebody who was makbid to eat in a state of Torah and purity, so he was familiar with these laws. V'amarli, he says, "Kol gedoli galilos and kain." This is the way that the people in the Galil, they used to wash their hands with hot water. So that's what happens. Chami Tveria, the water from the hot springs of Tiberias. So it's naturally hot. So now, is that a problem with Netilas Yadayim or not? Chizkiah says, Einot lemehem liyadayim. We don't use them to wash Netilas Yadayim, because people might make a mistake and think that they should heat up hot water from other sources. But you can dunk your hands in it, right? If you don't have a kli, right, and you have water, and let's say you go to a lake, right, you don't have a utensil to wash your hands, you can dip your hands into the water, right? And you don't make the bracha al netilas yadayim, you make a bracha al tevilas yadayim, right, on dunking your hands. Right? People know that, right? So therefore you can do that. So you can't use it for washing, but you can dunk your hands in them. Like a mikvah. Rabbi Yochanan says, Kol gufo tovel bahan, you can dunk your whole body in them, because that's how mikvahs work. Avalo, panav v'yodav v'raglav, but you can't wash your face and hands and legs in them. That you can't use that for netilas yadayim. It's not the same halacha, dipping your hands in, so you can't use it. So, I don't understand. Hasha kol gufo tov. If you can dunk your whole body in it, panav yadav raglav l'kol shkein. So why wouldn't you be able to dunk your hands, feet, and face into it in order to cleanse? So Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says b'mekomon, right, when they're in its right place, right, when they're in the ground, kuli amalo peligi dishari. Of course you can, right? Then it's like in a mikvah. However, mishko minayu b'mana, if you've picked it up and put it in a utensil, de kuli amalo peligi daser. Then at that point, dunking into a utensil, right? You can't scoop water up into a basin and dunk your hands in the basin. That doesn't work. It's not a mikvah either. Kipligi, the argument is de paskinu bebas birta, that what you did is you scooped it up into a utensil and then you poured it into another place, right? Does it now go back to the way it was, being part of the ground, or not? Mar Savar one says, Gazrin and Bas Birta Atumana, once it's in the ground again, we're saying, no, you can't use that because you might have dunked, if we allow you to dunk in that, then you might dunk in the utensil, which is no good. And Umar Savar, the other one says, Lo Gazrin, we didn't make such a rule. Ketanai. And this is machlokas. That which Chizki and Rabbi Yochanan argue about is also a machlokas from earlier times. Mayim shenifsulu mishsias behema. If you've got water that is ineligible for animals to drink, because it's so disgusting, animals wouldn't drink from it, contaminated, right? It's got too much dirt in it. Bekelim psulim, if you pour on it from a utensil, so that is not acceptable for washing. Bekarka, but if it's in the ground, then ksherin, then you can dunk your hands into it. That would be okay. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, because the rule was in netilas yadayim is no good. But as far as being in the ground, it's still okay.
Even if the water is contaminated? Even
if the water is dirty enough that animals would not drink from it, because it's tevilah. At that point, doing tevilah is not the same problems as washing. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, af bekarka, even in the ground, no. Tova bahan kol gufa, you can dunk your whole body in them, because mikvah, it's permissible for aval panav yadav raglav, but not just your hands, face, and legs. It wouldn't be able to do that. Now, hasha kol gufo tov behen, but yadav raglav kol shekain. If you can dunk your whole body in, for sure, it should work for your hands, legs, and face. Elalav de paskinu bebas birta. The answer is no. What's going on here is they scooped it up in a utensil and then put it back in to the ground. That's the same argument that they were arguing about. Demar Savar, Rabbi Shimon Elazar holds, Gazrin and Barbarta Atumana, that we're scared that if we let you dunk your hands into the ground, into the water that's on the ground, you might come and dunk it into when it's still in the utensil. Umar Savar, the Tanakama holds no, Lo Gazrin, we don't make such a rule. Amar of Adin bar Abin, Amar of Yitzchak bar Ashyan, so of Idi bar Abin said the name of Yitzchak bar Ashyan, Netilas Yadayim lechulin mipnei srach truma. That's what Yehuda was asking. The reason why we make you wash your hands when you're going to eat bread is because we are remembering that when we eat truma, you also have to be able to wash your hands in order before you eat truma, because you have to be able to make sure that they made a rule that all hands are secondary levels of truma. And we want to be able to make sure that if you touch truma, they can become third level tameh. So therefore, they instituted that you have to wash your hands before eating truma, and in order to make sure that everyone remember to wash their hands for eating truma, of course, only kohanim, right? But in order to remember that, they made the enactment that everybody needs to wash their hands before eating bread. Ve'od, and another reason why you have to wash your hands is mishum mitzvah, is because it is a mitzvah to do so. My mitzvah, what does that mean? It's a mitzvah to do so. Amar Rabbi says mitzvah l'shmo divrei chachamim. It's a mitzvah because you're following what the rabbis told you to do. It's a d'rabbanan mitzvah. And this is what the rabbis in last week's parsha, right? Pasha says that you're supposed to follow everything. Al pi Torah she'yerucha v'al mishpat, right? You have to do everything they say. Don't veer right or left. In last week's parsha, as the pasuk says, and this is included in that. Amar Rava says, mitzvah lishmoa divrei Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. It's actually a mitzvah to listen to what Rabbi Elazar ben Arach says, that he tells it that it comes from a pasuk. Dichsiv, the pasuk says, v'chol asher yiga bo hazav, anything that a zav, a person who's a zav, has these emissions that cause him to become tameh, anything he touches, v'yadav lo shataf b'mayim, if he doesn't wash his hands, so it transmits tumah. Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach says, "Mikan samchu chachamim l'netilas yadayim min haTorah." That's what the chachamim said, that it's a good idea to wash your hands before eating anything, because tumah can transfer if you don't wash your hands. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav says to Rav Nachman, "My mashma. What is exactly? How are you learning this?" Desiv, because the pasuk says, "V'yadav lo shataf b'mayim," because you didn't wash your hands. Hashataf. But what would happen if you wash your hands? Tahor. The guy who's a zav would be tahor. Hatvila boy. A zav doesn't become tahor if he washes his hands. A zav becomes tahor if he goes to the mikvah. Ella hachikamer. This is how he's reading the pasuk. If a zav doesn't go to the mikvah, ve'acher, or another person shelo shataf who doesn't wash his hands, then you're tamei. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Oshaya, Rabbi Elazar said Oshaya, lo amru netilas yadayim leperos. Washing your hands, as far as for fruit is concerned, isn't for any other reason el mishum nekios, except for cleanliness. Right? It's not a mitzvah. There's no to wash your hands for fruit. That's we're talking about dry fruit. Wet fruit is a different story, right? If you're going to get an apple, wash an apple and dry it off, you don't need to wash your hands to eat that apple, right? Savar mina. Now, in practice, the question was that there are some Rishonim who say you do have to wash your hands for a wet apple, right? Some say you don't. So therefore, what is the custom is for wet vegetables, we wash without a bracha, right? So therefore, right, eat a pickle, you should wash without a bracha. Right? If you have dry vegetable, you don't have to wash. Savar mina, the Bnei Yeshiva learn from here, chovahu deleka. It's not obligatory that you need to wash, that you don't need to wash, but ha-mitzvah, but it is a good idea. Amar lu Rava. Rava says no, lo chova lo mitzvah. Washing your hands for fruit, it's not an obligatory thing. It's also not a mitzvah either, el rishus. It's only if you want to wash your hands. Obviously, your hands are dirty, wash your hands. U'pligid Rav Nachman, and this is an argument that Rav Nachman says, Damar Rav Nachman says, Hanotu yadav lepeiros, somebody washes their hands for fruit, enu ela migasi ruach. That's just rude or haughty, right? Why you're just adding extra chumras on yourself. Amar Rabbi Rechana says, Hava ka'imna kamei de Rabbi Ami v'Ravasi. I was standing before Rabbi Ami and Ravasi. Aitu lekamaihu kalkala de peri. They brought a basket of fruit. V'achlu, and they ate. V'lo mashu yadaihu. They did not wash their hands. V'lo yahavi limidi, and they didn't give any to me. So ubarich chad chad l'chudei. And when they made a bracha achrona on it, right? Must be of the 7 species. Made a bracha achrona on it. Each one made their own bracha. So Shma Mina plus, we can learn 3 things from that story. Number 1, Shma Mina ein netilos yadayim peros. They didn't have to wash for fruit. Number 2, Shma Mina, I learned from that ein mezamnin al peros, that you don't make a zimun. Right? Only zimun is only for benching for bread, not for fruit. And Shma Mina, third thing is Shnaim she'achlu mitzvah lechalek. If people are not making a zimun, then it's better for everybody to make the bracha themselves. Right? We don't say one person make the bracha and everybody answer amen. Right? Everybody should make the bracha achrona themselves. Right? People do for al michya. The one person makes the bracha, and then everybody answers amen. Better that everybody should make their own bracha achrona. Tanya nami hachiv, a brisa that says like that also. Shnaim she'achlu, if 2 people eat bread together, but they don't have a zimun, mitzvah l'chalik, each one should bench independently. Now, when is that true? Shahayu shneim sofrim. That's if 2 people know the words properly. Aval echad sofer ve'echad bor. If one knows the words and one does not know the words, sofer mevarich bor yotze, then one person should make the bracha and everybody else should say amen. That's why we have the custom. One person makes al mech and everybody says amen, right? So the rabbi is sitting with a sitter and he could say it out loud. Okay, let's just, at least we can turn the page a little bit. Tana Rabbana rabbis learn netilas yadayim lechulin on a perek. Where do you have to wash your hands until the first joint? Right? So you say that's going to be the finger joint here, right? Because their thumb only has 1 joint. So not this joint, but this joint. That's where you have to wash your hands for chulin. L'truma, for truma ad haperek. You have to go up until the 3rd joint, right? That is the end of the fingers. That's what he says. Kiddush yadayim raglayim, but b'migdash, when they would wash in the Beis HaMikdash, ad haperek, they would go up to the wrist. The kol davar shechotzetz betfila baguf, anything that would be a chatzitz, which would be a blockage for going to the mikvah, is chotzitz b'netilas yadayim l'chulin, is going to block washing your hands for netilas yadayim. So if you have a Band-Aid on your finger, right, up here, right? To have to take that off in order to Netilas Yadayim.
Before you go to mikveh, you have to take off your banding.
And then you go to the mikvah, right? So also when you do Netilas Yadayim. And also Bekidash Yadayim Raglayim B'Mikdash, also when they would wash in the base of Mikdash. Amar Rav says, Ad Kan L'Chulin. Rav said that the same side, the same place that you wash for Chulin is Ad Kan L'Truma, is the same place for Truma. And Shmuel says, Ad Kan Bein L'Chulin Bein L'Truma. And Shmuel says, up until the same place is for Chulin and for Truma, L'Chumra. That's as far stringently goes. Meaning he said that the place you have to wash up to for bread is up to here, up to this knuckle. Right? Not up to here. He said up to here. And Rav Sheshes Amar Ad Kan Bein L'Chulin Bein L'Truma L'Kula. And he said Rav Sheshes was saying leniently, meaning Truma, you could even go up to this finger, right? Amar Bar Hedya. So Bar Hedya said, Hava Ka'imna Kami Ravami. I was standing before Rabbi Ami. Amar, he said, Ad Kan Bein L'Chulin Bein L'Truma L'Chumra. He said that when it comes to washing for bread and washing for Truma, he said, I go up to here, which is the strict opinion, up to the knuckles. Loiterman Rabbi Ami, Mishum de Kohenhu. And it's not because Rabbi Ami was a Kohen and he was eating Truma all the time, and therefore that's why, because Deha Rabbi Maisha Bar Brei, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who Levai. Because the story also goes of Rabbi Mayasha, who was the grandson of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who was a Levi. And he also said, Amar Ad Kan, Bein L'Chulin Bein L'Truma L'Chumra, that I'm going to go up to the knuckles to be machmir. There are those who have a different, the Rif has a different girsa of this Gemara that ends off, that actually says that you're supposed to wash up to the wrist. But that is not the girsa that we have. So la halacha, practical halacha, we wash Netilas Yadayim at least up to the fingers, and ideally we try to follow the Rif and go all the way up to the wrist. So when you're washing Netilas Yadayim, wash all the way up to the wrist, but if you don't have enough water to go all the way up to the wrist, you can wash up to the fingers and you're yotzei. Okay, let's stop here.
Amarav?
Amarav, correct. A couple lines from the bottom there. Very